This video will contain spoilers for Jujutsu Kaisen chapters 133, 134, and 135, and Season 2, Episode 22, otherwise known as Episode 46. So the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen is continuing its last-minute metamorphosis, and in this series, I'm going to be analyzing the story of the series as it airs, and, as a manga reader, comparing the anime to the manga to see what they pulled over directly, what they modified or expanded, and what they just straight up removed. So let's begin with the 22nd episode of Season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen. First, I'll recap the plot and explain what chapters it covered. The episode begins by cutting away to the remains of Shibuya. We see as Panda, in his gorilla form, unearths Kusakabe from some rubble. Kusakabe decides Itadori deserves execution despite not understanding the situation properly, but such is the power of fear. Then we cut away to Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia, where Mei and Wee Wee are doing weird shit again in a hotel room. Their tryst is mercifully cut short by a call Mei receives, where she tells someone on the other line to cash out on any financial investments they have in Japan, while also explaining that Getonte almost killed them, and they were able to use Wee Wee's curse technique to escape. It still hasn't explicitly been explained, but it has been more or less confirmed that Wee Wee has some kind of teleportation technique. From here we cut to Choso cowering in a small doorway in Shibuya Station, talking to himself to explain that his motivation is now to find out who Yuji really is, and in the process, find out who he really is. Finally, we cut back to the confrontation that ended the previous episode, with Getonte stepping in to offer Mahito his help. Yuji immediately recognizes him as the one who took Gojo prisoner, and rushes him. As Getonte retaliates, he explains that in the mid-Edo period, a commonly held belief emerged amongst Japan's populace that a giant catfish was causing earthquakes by swimming around underground. This is presumably the source of the cursed spirit he utilizes to counter Yuji, as Yuji experiences what seems to be a giant hole appearing beneath his feet on the back/head of a giant catfish. Yuji falls over onto his back, and Getonte explains that from an outside point of view, it looked like he just suddenly flipped over. Getonte continues to explain that the true strength of cursed spirit manipulation is the wide variety of moves granted to its user, and that with multiple semi-grade 1 or stronger cursed spirits with cursed techniques, he can just keep switching to new techniques when his opponent figures out the one he's currently using. Alternatively, he could also just pile on attacks relentlessly and give his opponent no room to respond, which he demonstrates by deluging Yuji with a stream of centipede cursed spirits and then hitting him with the catfish again to bring him to his knees. Getonte states his belief that had Geto kept his spirits on him instead of splitting his cursed spirits between Shinjuku and Kyoto for the night parade of 100 demons, he could have beaten Yuta instead of losing to him, although he acknowledges that Yuji wasn't involved with that event at all. Yuji refuses to give up, and Getonte acknowledges his toughness, before barely dodging a surprise attack from Mahito. Mahito reveals that he knew Getonte meant to betray him, as a curse born from humans and being able to read people's souls to know if they're lying, as Getonte captures him with cursed spirit manipulation. He turns back to Yuji, telling him they're going to discuss the new world to come. Getonte continues to explain about maximum techniques and how they're the most supreme arts of curse techniques aside from domains. He brings up the maximum Uzumaki technique that we saw Geto use against Yuta in the movie, and explains that it can be used to combine all the spirits the user of the technique has currently obtained and unleash them in a blast of super condensed cursed energy. He didn't think much of it at first, since it seemed to just reuse weaker cursed spirits and negate cursed spirit manipulation's variety advantage. However, he came to find out that when used with semi-grade 1 or higher cursed spirits with innate techniques, using Uzumaki allows the cursed spirit manipulation user to extract the technique. As he goes off on this tangent, Yuji senses Momo above on her broom and decides to wait out Getonte's speech. Getonte swallows Mahito, and as he's already looking up, chastises Yuji for being foolish enough to think he wouldn't notice something Yuji had sensed. Momo lights the lantern on her broom, which Noritoshi, who is nearby, sees and reads as a signal to aim his arrows right beneath Momo. Getonte dodges, but a sniper shot rings out as a bullet nearly hits him, but he's just able to block it with a cursed spirit in time, similar to how Geto used them against Toji's bullets at the beginning of the season. We see Mai react with annoyance, sniper in hand. Getonte appreciates the use of conventional weapons against human sorcerers, ever the pragmatist. Suddenly, we hear Miwa recollecting how her mother used to dye her hair black when she was captain of the youth basketball team. I guess that means her natural hair color is somehow blue. In middle school, she met her mentor and became a jujutsu sorcerer, despite never having even held a training weapon before, let alone a real one. She clung tightly to her katana so as not to be a burden to her mother and to not die, but claims that she's putting everything into her next attack, even if it means never wielding a katana again. She performs a new shadow-style Bato sword drawing and swings at Getonte. He effortlessly catches the blade and breaks her katana, before immediately responding by casting Maximum Uzumaki. The Maximum technique carves a giant swath through the ground, but seems not to have hit Miwa. Getonte remarks that it's nice to face someone with a little knowledge, and we see as Kusakabe, Utahime, and Momo had all jumped in to protect Miwa. Panda cautiously approaches Yuji, who responds with excitement, making it clear to Panda that Sukuna is no longer in control. Noritoshi confirms that Getonte is the one with the prison realm, and therefore Gojo. Noritoshi asks who he is, and Panda says he looks like Geto, but doesn't know who is inside. At this point, Choso makes his reappearance on the battlefield. Getonte greets him, and Choso thinks to how he has three parents: his mother, the cursed spirit that impregnated her, and the man who mixed his blood with theirs and toyed with his mother, earning his hate in the process. We see as the original Noritoshi Kamo, who created the Cursed Room death paintings, is revealed to have had the same stitches across his forehead as Getonte. Getonte asks Choso if he's finally noticed, and Choso reveals that Getonte used to be Noritoshi Kamo, which confuses the current Noritoshi. Momo asks Utahime what that means, and Utahime reminds her of the original Noritoshi Kamo, regarded as the most evil sorcerer in history, and the blot on the Kamo clan, meaning that whatever is controlling Geto's body currently is over 150 years old. Kusakabe finds it all to add up, and Getonte pulls the classic body hopper shtick of saying Noritoshi Kamo is but one of many names he's gone by, and to call him by whatever name. Choso steps towards him, expressing righteous indignation that Getonte tried to trick him into killing Yuji, who he refers to as his little brother. Suddenly, Uraume steps in to defend Getonte. Choso thinks about how, due to blood manipulation, he has a blood connection to his brothers and can sense their transformation from any distance. As death is the greatest and final transformation humans go through, he can sense the deaths of his brothers as well, as we saw in Season 1. Through this connection, he had an overwhelming sense of Yuji's death before he killed him, meaning Yuji must be his little brother. Figuring that Kamo Noritoshi extending his life by hopping bodies for 150 years means anything is possible, Choso decides to put all his strength into fulfilling his duty as an older brother and deleting Getonte. He prepares a piercing blood shot, which Noritoshi reacts to, seeing as they have the same technique, and realizes it's much stronger than his own. Choso fires it off at Uraume, who is caught off guard by its speed, but still manages to block it with their hand. Choso swipes the bloodstream in an arc to try and hit Getonte with it, then rushes him with physical attacks. Getonte taunts him, telling him not to push himself when he's tired, but Choso disregards it as no reason to stop defending his little brother. Panda confirms with Yuji that they're not related, which to Yuji's knowledge they are not, and Panda brings up Todo and wonders if Yuji puts off some kind of pheromone that makes people think he's their brother. Nonetheless, the Jujutsu High Forces realize that Choso has created an opening and decide to seize the opportunity to try and retake the prison realm. As Panda readies an unblockable drumming beat, Uraume shows off their technique, casting Ice Formation, Frost Calm. A giant wall of ice forms, Todoroki style, encasing the Jujutsu High Sorcerers in it. Getonte asks them not to kill everyone, as he needs a messenger. Uraume asks if that's enough of a reason to let them all live, and uses reverse curse technique to heal their hand. Kusakabe clocks that between the ice technique and reverse curse technique, there is yet another super high level curse user in the mix, and thinks about how he wants to go home. Choso uses flowing red scale to enhance his physical strength and claims the ice isn't enough to hold him as he attempts to break out of it. But Uraume threatens him with an ice claw to the face. Yuji suddenly drop kicks Choso out of the ice, with Uraume upset that Sukuna isn't in control, apparently not having frozen Yuji because he's Sukuna's vessel. Yuji asks Choso if he's their ally, but he denies it, claiming that he's just Yuji's older brother, and they have a funny little moment. Momo uses the distraction to cast a wind scythe at Uraume and Geton, which Uraume deflects with their bare hands. While Momo directs Yuji to buy time until Utahime is ready, Uraume decides that Yuji alone is enough for Geton's messenger, and casts Ice Formation Icefall. More ice shoots out and immobilizes the 3 free sorcerers, while a giant spiky ice ball falls towards them from above. Just as Yuji thinks they're as good as dead, what appears to be a cursed spirit destroys the ice ball and saves them. A woman's voice addresses Geton, referring to him as Geto. As we see that Todo's teacher, the special grade sorcerer Tsukumo has taken the field. She asks for Geto's answer from 12 years before, when she asked what kind of girls he likes, and the episode ends. With all that recap out of the way, let's go over the basic points of the plot. 1. Geton absorbs Mahito with cursed spirit manipulation and confronts Yuji. 2. The remaining sorcerers from Shibuya and the Kyoto school arrive to converge on Geton in an attempt to work together to take the prison realm. 3. Geton explains that the maximum technique for cursed spirit manipulation, Uzumaki, has the ability to extract cursed techniques from semi-grade 1 and above cursed spirits that the user has absorbed. 4. He casts said technique on Miwa, who survives. 5. Uraume shows up to defend Geton from Choso, and nearly manages to kill everyone present, minus Yuji. 6. Suddenly, Tsukumo, one of only 2 remaining special grade sorcerers at this point, the other being Yuta, as Gojo is sealed, and Geto is dead plus body jacked, arrives to save the day. Now let's get into some analysis. For the first time since the beginning of the season, cursed spirit manipulation is paying some dividends by giving me something related to Japanese culture to sink my teeth into. In this case, we'll be talking about the giant catfish that causes earthquakes that Geton refers to. Here's a summary of the Wikipedia article, with some additional clarification and detail from me. In Japanese mythology, this fish is referred to as either Namazu, which literally just means catfish, or O Namazu, which could be translated as big or great catfish. The creature lives under the islands of Japan and is guarded by the god Takemikazuchi, who is enshrined at Kashima, and restrains the catfish with a stone. When Takemikazuchi lets his guard down, Namazu thrashes about, causing violent earthquakes. Interestingly, the connection somehow seems to have come about from an initial belief that catfish can predict earthquakes. While existing beforehand, this belief didn't rise to popularity until the 19th century, due to the 1855 earthquake of Edo. The day before the earthquake, an eel fisherman reportedly spotted unusually active catfish in a river, which he took as a predictor of an earthquake. Later that night, the earthquake struck. The anecdote, recorded in an 1856 chronicle of journalistic reporting on the earthquake, is the earliest known claim that catfish can naturally predict earthquakes. In the 1930s, Japanese seismologists Hatai Shinkishi and Abe Noboru demonstrated that catfish in aquaria, which is the plural for aquarium I just learned, showed increased agitation several hours before earthquakes occurred, and were able to predict quakes with 80% accuracy. Following the earthquake, Namazue, or catfish prints, became widely distributed, depicting the fish, which is sometimes shown as a dragon serpent, being defeated by Takemikazuchi. Of social relevance is the presence of large gold coins, such as koban, shown being distributed by the earthquake in the prints. This is a symbolic representation of a political belief held at the time. Although the fish was considered responsible for the earthquake and the resulting disaster, it was also hailed as a Yonaoshi Damyojin, or God of World Rectification, or perhaps even an Avenger of Social Justice. At the time, the rich had been hoarding their wealth, and it was a popularly held belief that all the destruction caused by the earthquake led to a redistribution of wealth from the wealthy back into the hands of the poor, as many jobs were created for the sake of reconstruction following the earthquake. One picture is printed with a jingle, with the refrain Yonaoshi, Yonaoshi, Tate Naoshi, literally world fixing, rebuilding, which explicitly makes this connection. To this day, catfish are visually linked with earthquakes in Japan. For example, the Japan Meteorological Agency uses an image of a catfish on their earthquake early warning logo. A few other select examples. In The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, a catfish gives Link the Quake Medallion. The Pokemon Whiscash, named Namazun in Japan, resembles a catfish and has Earthquake as its signature move. An episode of the Pokemon anime featuring Whiscash was scheduled to air on November 4, 2004, but was skipped over after the 2004 Chuetsu earthquake. In Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood, the Namazu are a tribal race of bipedal catfish people. Lastly, let's go over the bonus pages from these chapters in the manga. There was no bonus after Chapter 133 as it ended the volume. In Volume 16, after Chapter 134, we get a page from Akutami addressing a controversy that emerged over his use of Uzumaki being clearly connected to Junji Ito and his well-known work Uzumaki, and debate over whether it can be considered homage or if it crosses the line into plagiarism. Finally, after Chapter 135, we just get a character sketch for Uraume. And that's my episode recap and story analysis for the 22nd episode of the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen. YouTube has apparently started making the buttons light up if the words thumbs up are used in the video, so hit that like button when you see the pretty RGB lights. The same is true for subscribe, and make sure to turn on bell notifications if you want to be here as soon as possible each week as I put out new videos for each episode as it airs. And feel free to drop a comment with suggestions as to other videos you might like to see, such as character analysis videos or explanations. Thanks for watching.